Dr. Paula Wilkes has been an educator and coach for more than 40 years. She earned her BA at UCLA and her MA and Ph.D. from the University of Oregon. During the first 25 years of her career, Dr. Wilkes was a public school teacher in Eugene, Oregon. During that time, she worked with gifted students both within a heterogeneous classroom and as a gifted specialist. For nearly 10 years, she worked as a professor of education at Pacific University's Eugene campus, where she created and coordinated the Center for Gifted Education. Dr. Wilkes currently works at Summit Center as a coach and consultant for gifted and twice exceptional kids, teens, and adults, as well as with parents needing support in dealing with the academic, social, and emotional issues of their children. Thank you for coming again and for coming to do this presentation. I'll turn it over to you, and if you have any questions, I'll be in the back as well.
So I'm going to invite you to take notes as you think things are important, or write questions down on your paper, because that way you don't have to hold the questions in your head and they'll be ready for you at the very end. And I always encourage gifted kids who have lots of questions and are really curious. If you have kids who are in a school and you're able to go into the teacher to talk to them about the possibility of kids having a little notepad where they're able to write things down as the teacher's talking, because sometimes they have lots of questions that they want to ask as well, and it's hard for them to keep paying attention to what the teacher's saying and hold a question in their head at the same time. So just something I wanted to offer for you. So the reason I came up with this title, Beyond Mindfulness, Nourishing Body, Mind, and Spiritual Wellness, is because nowadays we're hearing like mindful everything, mindful eating, mindful walking, mindful working. And especially for gifted children who are in their heads a lot, I think we're spending a little bit too much time in our heads sometimes, and then it's hard to turn the head off. And so I've been using a phrase, being awareful, so that we're going to be aware through our mind, aware through our bodies, and aware through our spirits, rather than it always being like in the mind and the thinking mind. So the importance of this topic. Our bodies, like the natural world, operate on cycles of up states and down states. Many gifted children spend their waking hours in hyperarousal from the demands of school, extracurricular activities, and social media. The result of this hyperarousal can lead to sleeplessness, anxiety, and depression. Tonight we will discuss ways to nourish the parasympathetic nervous system in order to promote the wellness of their body, mind, and spirit. Now, this photograph right here is of a former client of mine when he was maybe, I'd say, third or fourth grade. I'm not exactly sure. And he's a twin, and the other one is his twin brother. And my client is the one with his hands over his face. So he's the highly sensitive, hyper-arousal reactions. And the one in front has a great need for stimulation, a great need for arousal. So just the thought of what he's headed for is like great excitement. And this was not a staged photograph. The parents sent it to me because they thought if they were going to explain their two twins to anyone, it would be through this right here, this photograph. So one of the things I like to do is help bright, sensitive, and intense children fall into what I call their sphere of peace. And I had seen this painting online, not realizing it wasn't the final thing, but that this woman was making a painting along the way, and this was part of the way through. But for me, it was a great illustration of what I and many other sensitive people experience, that there can be like this sphere within us that when we drop into that place, we have great peace, great calm, great relaxation, no matter what's going on in the world around us. But this feeling of all this energy around us, we can know when we're leaving that sphere of peace, because we're going to start picking up things that can make us feel uncomfortable. So for me, I like to talk about feeling as though I've got a nervous system that's amplified, or I've got antennas all over me that are picking up all kinds of information, and not all of it is useful or necessary. But, very interestingly, my husband and I were given one of those ancestry DNA tests, so I found out, where my relatives came from and all. And they've just started looking at the DNA in a couple of other ways. And one of the things that I just got last week looked at arousal level of the nervous system. And I wasn't surprised at all when I saw mine is in the lower 20 percentile of what I can tolerate before I'm way over aroused by things. My husband was at about, at what they called average, but I'm sure the twin in the front seat is way over to the edge where he needs a lot of stimulation. And I don't know how many of you realize it, but many kids who are identified as having ADHD, when we look at what their lives were like as children, they didn't have much of a startle response. So they are looking for doing things that are quite out of bounds to get them to feel alive. And I've been working with an adult client who does tell me that he doesn't really feel very alive because not much does, like, the one in the front, like everything is too much for him. But for some with attention deficit, it takes quite a bit to get any kind of adrenaline coming from them. So what I try to do is have my clients feel what it feels like to really be at peace and be awareful, not with their mind, but with their bodies. When am I starting to just feel like I'm losing that sense of peace? And then what can we do to try to bring ourselves back to that place? So this book, and I have a copy here if you just want to kind of rifle through it before you leave today, The Power of the Down State, Recharge Your Life Using Your Body's Own Restorative Systems. Sarah Mednick is a professor at UC Irvine, and she's a cognitive scientist whose specialty is in the area of sleep. And she uses the idea of the upstate, or being revved up to do work, to be highly engaged, or for me to get into that hyperarousal state, or the down state of the parasympathetic nervous system, that is the replenishing and the nourishing one. So the rev up state is fed by the sympathetic nervous system, also known as the fight or flight response. It also encompasses all of the ways your body mobilizes its resources in response to new and exciting experiences, stress broadly defined, injury or illness. But we need to come to the rev up state to be engaged in the work we're doing. It's that alive and getting ready to go. But for some people, it can really put them over the edge also, because it's depleting on their systems, and why she talks about the need for really good sleep, maybe a 20-minute nap, really good eating, lots of other kinds of things like that. So the rev state is not bad, it's vital, but it can deplete. And if you think of the sympathetic nervous system kicks on when we breathe in. But if you've ever had a child or yourself who's very upset, maybe crying and like that, they can get themselves into a panic because they're over pumping the rev state. And so we have to make sure that we teach them how to bring that breathing down. And another thing that happens, we can, with too much rev, get ourselves in emergency states. If you have a child who ever has urinated in class, or, some really bright kids wet themselves even at school, or have the bowels dumping themselves. That's that fight or flight, that they can't handle what's going on in the nervous system, and it's just like there ends up being a lot of chaos. And that's happening up in that rev state. So for me, I like the metaphor of my barrel being too full. So anyone who is twice exceptional pretty much is going to have a full barrel by the time they get to school. Just the thought of the kind of work maybe they're going to be asked to do, if they're being bullied, any kind of thing like that. So for myself, because of being so highly sensitive, I have precognizance where I can pick up when negative things are going to be happening even worldwide, and I don't know what those things are going to be until like a few hours later. My barrel gets very full because I am spiritually sensitive, where I can even pick up on things that a lot of other people can't. But many gifted kids can. Kids who are on the autism spectrum tend to have very fine-tuned nervous systems that are so full barrel that it makes it very difficult for them as well. So any of life's stressors can cause us to overflow. And then the thing that isn't even really vital can cause the overflow. So you have all these things maybe happening, and then one, what seems to the parents or teacher, little thing happens, and the child overflows. That's because there's already so many monkeys in that barrel. The child can't bear one more thing. It's also that idea of like the straw that broke the camel's back. It isn't that one straw. It's all the other things that have been carried as well. So then we have the recovery or the down state. And the down state is what her book was about. My husband and I were driving over from like the Hancock Park area today, and I didn't really want to be on the freeway. I was going to be driving. So we took quite a path to get here. But for me, I was really in the nice downstate, saw the hills of Pasadena, a lot of different places I'd never been before, and my husband's sitting back here.
I was a little bit in the upstate.
Yeah, his barrel was starting to fill as I was saying, where are we going to turn? And, and so we had no idea where we were, and the GPS kept wanting us to get on the freeway, like what crazy person wouldn't want the freeway right now, right? But this was part of my not coming in here already with a full barrel. So the down state is an integral part of all the physiological, cognitive, and emotional processes that allow us to stay resilient, yet is often ignored by our go, 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 and do, do, do society. Our parasympathetic nervous system, also known as the rest and digest branch, calms you down, decreases inflammation, rebuilds and replenishes your depleted resources, and supports your mental and emotional processing. So many of us with bright children have children who want to be in all kinds of things, take AP classes, apply to really difficult colleges, and it's all like upstate rev, and we need to really make sure that these kids are getting plenty of opportunity to work on the parasympathetic nervous system, replenish it.
Should we wait for our questions?
Yes, and so if you want to write them down so you don't forget them, yeah, that would be great. So in about a half hour, I have this here just because it's easier to know about how much time. This is a great technique for anybody who has attention deficit, because with attention deficit, you tend to have time blindness, where time just goes by and you don't realize so much time has gone by. So by being able to just see this, it gives you a better idea. We have 2 grandchildren that we take care of after school. One is 6 and one is going to be 10. So a first grader and a fourth grader. And first thing when they get home from school, we give them a really big snack. They like to watch YouTube videos or, different things that help just bring them down from school. And we set this for a half hour. It's part of our downstate restorative time for them rather than like getting right into whatever the homework is. This piece of artwork is actually called Mindfulness. And when I've shown this to the gifted kids who I coach, I'll say, tell me what you see in this picture. And the kids sometimes will say something like, we're more than meets the eye. It looks like, we're not producing very much up here. It's in a state of rest for the tree, but all kinds of things are going on underneath the ground that nobody knows about. I think this is also a great visual for a child who could be 2E and maybe the teacher or the parents don't see much getting accomplished, but there's so much the kids would like to share with us, so much that the kids are experiencing. And then sometimes kids turn it upside down and they'll say, well, actually, up here, these are the roots, and then this is all that I am. So when we think of mindfulness, we often think of meditation, and I'd like to just share the many ways to be awareful in meditative kinds of ways. One is called mindful movements, and that's where you pay really good attention to any kind of moving. Thich Nhat Hanh had talked about mindful walking, and it's just very slowly, just something like this, very, very slow walking, and just paying attention to everything that's around you rather than how quickly can I get to this next place I'm trying to get to. I already mentioned the Monroe Institute Expand app that I just think is so fantastic. Thich Nhat Hanh has something called a handful of quiet. And in this handful of quiet, it's a 4-stone meditation. And what the kids do is they find 4 stones. And when I was a classroom teacher, I liked to go somewhere where I could just buy lots of tumbled stones that weren't very expensive and let each child choose 4 of them. And then they take the first one and they hold it and they say, flower, I feel fresh. And then we talk about it, what it means to be fresh as a flower. For me, that's like having been nourished in that down state so you're ready to go and capable of doing some difficult work then. Then the second one, mountain, I feel solid, and what it means to be like a mountain. Sure of yourself, strong in your convictions and your values, no matter what comes at you. Calm water. I reflect things as they truly are. And if you think about that idea of a reflection, not how somebody else wants you to be, not saying or doing things so somebody else is going to want to be your friend, but being able to be that calm water and reflective of your own truth. And then the last one, space. I feel free. I feel an expansiveness. And again, that's when we can keep pulling ourselves back to that sphere of peace. That feeling of expansiveness is so amazing because when that anxiety or stress starts coming in, what we really do is we pull ourselves into ourselves in a very protective way. You may have seen in your own kids or felt it yourselves where your shoulders come up. You're trying to be protective, arms around themselves, things clenched, so that when you're at that place where you feel free, like space, you can just be so much more relaxed. Your body can flow away from itself. And you can feel your energy around yourself and pick up on the energy of other people rather than being pulled in and trying to get rid of any space you might have. And then moments of gratitude. This is something that's a really nice meditation to do. Maybe as you're falling asleep, your kids are falling asleep at night, think of some of the things that happened during the day that they're grateful for, people that they're grateful for. So much is going on in our world now. Any child who is hearing about, climate crisis or the polarization of our country or, wars. It's difficult to be a child now because not only are there a lot of difficult things happening, but they can get instantaneous news that we didn't get. Usually by the time we heard about very difficult things, it had been filtered down. I was just thinking the other day that, because I'm a lot older than all of you are, there was a time that we would watch the news and it would be like a Walter Cronkite sitting there still telling the news. And you could believe that it was the truth, but it didn't have banners swirling behind him and, the next thing coming up, floating across the bottom. And so we got used to just being able to focus on this thing and understand this thing. And so even though, in my time there was the Vietnam War, or Kennedy was assassinated, Martin Luther King was assassinated, we had a lot of that happening. It wasn't as told in as scary a way as it is now. So being able to focus on gratitude. And when it comes to the difficult things that are happening in gratitude, one of the things we like to do with our grandchildren is give them each $100, but not really that they get themselves, and help us spend it on some kind of a theme, make a donation with us. So then 1 month it was things, like that helped the earth, and another one that helped children, and another one that had to do with hunger, and another one, and that make them see all the different kinds of organizations that there are that are trying to do something. Because when kids see all the difficult things going on, they think, where are the adults? Why aren't the adults doing anything about this? So if you could show them all the different ways organizations are trying to make a difference. Then focusing on a longer parasympathetic out-breath. And I think I'm going to show you that right now. Let's see if it is. No. Pretty soon I will, though. And with that one, we'll breathe in a certain number of counts, and then we're going to breathe out longer. It's the longer out breath that makes the difference. So Thich Nhat Hanh has a meditation with breathing where you breathe in and say, present moment, wonderful moment. Present moment, wonderful moment. Because one of the things for very anxious children is that they're in the past with bad things that have happened, or in the future for the scary, uncertain things that are going to happen. And they miss the sweet spot of that present moment and everything that we can get right now. So this is one way I brought myself into the down state. About 10 years ago, when we moved down from Eugene, I started working at Summit Center, and sometimes I would have a 45-minute drive to go a short distance, but in Los Angeles, going past Century City and Beverly Hills and all these different places till you get to West Los Angeles. So I found the music of Deva Premal, and it made such a difference. It was almost like Pavlov's dog. As soon as I hear Deva, I drop into this peaceful place. So as we listen to Deva, just a short clip of this, I'm going to invite you to breathe in about 3 breaths and then breathe out 5, 6, 7 breaths, whatever it is, but bring the longer breath out because that's the part that does the nourishing down state. So that's another way to do meditation, just to listen to music and try to focus. That is Sanskrit mantra that she repeats over and over again. So meditation doesn't mean that we're having to completely not be thinking about anything, but really about being awareful. And if your thoughts come, just allow the thoughts to come. But I always really like listening to music like this if I'm going to be in a car and it might be at all kind of a stressful drive. That helps me feel a little bit more calm. So this is a picture of myself when I am a little girl. And open heart meditation is sending love to your younger self. Some of us didn't have great experiences when we were children. And it's kind of nice to have a picture of yourself and say, you know, I just wanted to let you know that I'm sorry the adults in your life didn't love you the way you needed and wanted to be loved, but I'm here to love you. And I appreciate everything that you've experienced that have brought us to where we are right now. And rather than feeling sorry for anything that happened when you were young, to think that's the scaffold of who I am right now. Now, because of some of what I experienced, I can really be empathetic for other people. I just got a call from Summit Center about the possibility of working with a college student who had lost a friend to suicide. And I thought to myself, there's another one of those experiences. I lost my brother to suicide. And it will be to be able to talk with somebody else how difficult it is to be a survivor of the death of someone you really cared about. And so rather than that staying in my life of poor me, I had this experience and all, for me now it's, now how can I pay it forward to someone else? How can I lessen the burden someone else is feeling, at the present moment because it's so fresh and new to him. But I just think it's really important for us to have deep love for each of the ages we've been and all that we've experienced. So one thing that I do every morning, we have kind of a morning routine that, when I get up, I like to do something while I'm still in bed because of something I read in a book by a doctor and about the importance of vibration for the human body. And so I lay in bed where my legs are still out and tap my feet together. She said she does it every morning before she gets up. And so I do it and I bring vibration up through my body to help get that rev going a little bit after having been asleep all night. And then when I get up, I have a full glass of water and do something before I'm listening to that Expand app, and that's this routine here, Qigong for cleansing. Qigong is a kind of energy movement. It's the way we move energy through our bodies to help our bodies heal. So they start off where you're just going to rub the energy down your arms and down your legs. And you do this 4 times. And then there's a whole series of other things that you do, but you're leading movement through your body. And, you're rubbing your body in a circle. Oh, no. That's a different one where you're rubbing it in a circle. But there are many different ways you can do Qigong. We also took a course from Sounds True with Lee Holden that is really excellent on Qigong. But I can't express to you enough. We've been doing Qigong now for maybe 15 or 20 years. But just think it's a really beautiful way that's kind of a combination of the down state and the up state. It's helping rev your body up for the day, but also doing a gentle healing. I really like this book by Rick Hanson, Hardwiring Happiness, and this helps, again, for times with the down state. And he says that we tend to Velcro the negatives in our lives and hold on to them and let go of positive experiences very quickly, like they're expendable. So he says we should have the experience, enrich the experience, absorb the experience, and then link the experience. And then I'm going to show you how that happens. These are pictures of our granddaughter when she was young and experienced the significance in what may seem ordinary. So in the top picture, she used to love to lean against me and get my energy, but I was really getting her energy too. And Lucy is very, very spiritual. Lucy is twice exceptional with stealth dyslexia and a significant issue with spelling, but very, very high reading comprehension. Even when she stumbles through some of her reading, somehow the comprehension ends up being 100%. But that's part of that when you're twice exceptional and intellectually gifted. That's the way it shows itself. But she's also got a strong spiritual sensitivity like I do. So here's a photograph that Rick took. So you have the experience and you enrich it by really feeling it deep into you. If it's just a photograph, just look at that photograph and try to remember, luckily because I experienced it, what it feels like. And then, so that's then when you stay with it for as many seconds as you can and experience the awe of either what you're seeing or what you're experiencing. Then later on, if you're ruminating or angry or worried or sad, you pull up this visual in your mind as the focus that you lay over the thing. So when I used to teach this to students in my class, we would talk about maybe something that had happened somewhere and they were thinking about it and thinking about it and thinking about it. But we had a cache of some hardwired images, and then I could say, and which image do you want to take the place of what you're thinking of now? And we need to be very careful of the energy we emit to others and what we pick up from others as well. The more sensitive we are, the more we can pick up things from other people. But around our children, we need to be careful of our own down states. Where is our parasympathetic nervous system? What are we giving off to our children that they may not know is not their own negative energy, but it's a negative energy that's just happening in the family or happening at school or happening in the world. Because they don't know. I didn't know when I was young that the chaos I was feeling was the chaos of other people. And I understand that now. Whoops, I need to go back. So here's another one. So this was Sarah, who was one of my university students at Pacific University, and she was a science teacher. And she used to tell her students when they would say, "How tall are you?" She would say, "I'm 5'12". But she was just amazing. She played the flute, just such a wonderful person. And this is a picture in the hospital. She had a brain tumor, and this was the second surgery, and she survived the surgery, but she didn't survive the cancer. And on the day that I found out that she had passed away, we were walking down Larchmont Village, no longer living in Eugene anymore, and there I saw in the parkway was a root up through the ground in the shape of a heart. And so Rick took the photograph for me. So I have these two in my mind. And if there's ever some little thing happening that's just really bugging me, then it's easy for me to pull this up in my mind and bring me to, things that are really important and valuable that I want enriched in my life. This book, Why Smart People Hurt, I like this quote. First thing each day, orient yourself in the direction of meaning. Rather than starting your daily tasks and everything looming ahead of you, rather than orienting yourself toward your day job and your everyday pursuits, spend a minute or two quietly asking yourself, where do I intend to make meaning today? And again, this is one of those things, it's like making a promise to yourself. It might be a nice conversation to have with kids at breakfast in the morning, and then you could revisit it at night, because we'd like them to hold on to that value system. There is a book recently written talking about giftedness and how often we're teaching kids to be transactional gifted people. If you do this, you're going to get A's. If you take these AP classes, you're going to get into a better college. If you get into a better college, you're going to get a better job, and think about the money you're going to make. And their giftedness is about transaction. But there's a new kind of giftedness being talked about, and that is not that you won't be able to also make money, but what kind of difference do you hope to make in the world? What kind of value system do you have that you'd like to see those values play through in the things that you do? So by asking where I intend to make meaning today, then the focus isn't like, oh my gosh, I have 4 meetings today, and then I have this, and then I have that, because then you're teaching kids just busy, busy, busy is the way the normal is for an adult. But instead, if you could talk about making meaning, it could make a big difference, again, bringing into that sense of peace. And it doesn't mean that, oh, I'm going to do something so that someday I can cure cancer. That's not what we're talking about here. It could be, I'm going to go to school and smile at somebody who up till now I haven't maybe even paid attention to. Then you're bringing meaning into that person's life and into your own. So sleep and rest. The author says this. Think of the interplay between upstates and downstates as the ebb and flow of ocean waves eternally lapping against the shore. Playing at full capacity in the upstate requires that your tanks get refilled to their maximum capacity as frequently as possible. It's not just the going to sleep part. The downstate is where that happens. A good night's sleep and naps are vital. So one thing that she says, there's a new study out about people who nap too frequently have a higher rate of Alzheimer's. And I heard the author be interviewed, and a doctor said to her, "You're suggesting people take 20-minute naps in the afternoon, but this research is showing the people who nap the most are the ones with the Alzheimer's." And she says, but there's a difference. This is a purposeful 20-minute where you're going to, turn on this for 20 minutes and then you're going to get up. You're not going to sleep and throw off your circadian rhythms. The people who are getting the Alzheimer's are the ones who are sitting in their chair and falling asleep intermittently throughout the day. And that is hard on the brain. So what she talks about is there are a lot of people who have a misunderstanding that I'm going to stay up till 2 in the morning and work on this project, but then I'll sleep in tomorrow, or the next night I'll do whatever. And she says, no, that there are these rhythms to the brain that at a certain time of day, about 10 o'clock at night, people should be going to sleep for adults. And the brain starts taking out like the dirt and cleaning things like the kidneys, how they continue to want to flush themselves. That's what the brain is doing at night. It's filtering things out. And when you skip that particular thing, you don't come back and get to do that the next day. You've missed that opportunity. So it could leave you foggy and just feeling a little bit out of sorts. And then she's done some studies where people were going to take a test and learning new information. And she said that those who took a 20-minute break and slept, took a nap, did so much better than those who worked all the way through. And then the ones who tried to study all night, they did not hold on to that long term. The brain was not capable of doing that. So it's a really good book. I think it's worth looking at for why sleep and many other things are so important. So this is something I think of when it comes to especially our twice exceptional students, how they feel at the end of a day. A stressful day of school, especially for kids who are 2E, needs to be followed by a healthy snack and an opportunity to recharge before doing homework, chores, or other upstate activities, which why I said we set our little clock here for 30 minutes. The kids get a great snack. They watch videos, laugh. They have their choice. Remember, we don't all recharge in the same way. I remember when my husband and I were teachers, and the teachers would go into the lounge to kind of recharge, and they wanted all the kids to go outside with balls and play on the blacktop or, grass or whatever the schools had. But some kids just wanted to take their books. Other kids wanted to take pens and paper and draw. But it was so interesting. The people who were on duty didn't want to have to deal with all those things, and they just wanted get the balls out and run around, but we don't all recharge the same way. So it's really important when your kids are taking breaks, in what way do they recharge? So here's the final slide. There the twins are up there, and here the twins are now as 13 or 14-year-olds. So here Shimon is. It's important for us to help kids whose emotional barrels are overflowing to use the power of the down state to experience greater joy in their lives. The joy of just running around at the beach. For him, recharging would be doing very, very difficult math. He scored 5 on AP Calculus as a 7th grader. So these kids recharge in different ways. He wouldn't like to recharge the way someone else would, and there are a lot of kids who would never see doing math as a way to recharge at all. And then just for, again, the one on the right, maybe having a little bit more joy on the roller coaster than Shimon, but at least Shimon now can be on a roller coaster and feel like he's having a good time.